Hi. I was waiting for the footage to kick in, I guess you'd say. It sort of paused for a second. I'm like, and then I couldn't tell if it just hadn't started going live, if it just wasn't moving. So anyway, hello, all you. I'll come in again. Hello, all you folks out there in YouTube land. Thrash Pondo here, and I'm doing just a genuine. I can't talk tonight. Am I having a stroke? I can smell toast. I'm doing a gen, a genuine a general Q&A tonight, folks. And Rachel in the 28 is our first catch of the day. Hello, Rachel in the 208. Yeah, we're gonna have a kind of a theme here, old Saturday morning cartoon shows, but it's gonna be like a general, very low key, very just, me talking if I can talk. Rachel says, "Oh no, another stroke." I know, another stroke of luck. Not the way things are going this year, huh, folks? But yeah, so it looks like there's someone else lurking in the shadows. It says two. Just Kerwin. Evening. All made it. Yes, you said that you were looking forward to talking old Saturday morning cartoon shows. So glad you did, Justy. But again, we cannot talk about other stuff as well, by the way. But I think that's going to be the central theme. The central theme. I mean, yes, the golden age of Saturday morning TV, 70s. In my opinion, the 70s were the high water mark. Some people like stuff from the 60s, and there was plenty good there. And there was certainly plenty of good installments in the 80s. But the thing about the 80s is they had learned a very unfortunate lesson in the world of animation. Trust me, because I was a huge animated entertainment buff. They learned the kids will gobble it up regardless of how much heart or production value you put in. And so you started to see more and more cartoons of a lower production quality and not particularly good writing. You did have some great stuff, but you were seeing more and more dawdrill. So I give it to the 70s. In my opinion, that was the high water mark. And Lance is here and says, "Hey, Thrash, had a good birthday. So glad you did. Saw it was your birthday on Facebook. Glad you got the message." Rachel said, "Smurfs and Laugh Olympics are the first that come to mind. Never, ever acquired a taste for Smurfs." I'm thinking by the time the Smurfs came out, I was actually in my early teens. Well, 12, 13 ish. So my sense of whimsy was waning. It was actually probably the worst possible time. I was too young to be nostalgic about children's entertainment, but too old to like kid stuff. I was a young adult and I liked young adult things. And Tug is here. Yo, 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 yo. And yo to you too, Tug. By the way, if you guys haven't seen it, check out his Donovan's Brain retrospect. It is outstanding. And Tug, I always thought that it from A Wrinkle in Time, spoiler alert, that is possibly the best adaptation of the disembodied brain. But then again, every time they've tried to adapt A Wrinkle in Time, it has bit the royal dingo kidney. So, no, I know. A lot of people say it's just because so much, it's like Stephen King, so much of it is cerebral going on in the characters' heads, it's tough to translate. I call bullshit. What they do is they try to modernize it. They try to give it a cool spin. They try to make it inclusive. And they change fundamental characters that were not in the book. And I think anytime you experiment with something that was written so deliberately, you run the risk of completely alienating the only people who will watch it in the first place, the fans, that you ruin it. And since they tried it twice and failed both times, I think I know which side we should bet on here. Lynn says Thundar the Barbarian, possibly my favorite Saturday morning cartoon of all time. Tug says, "Thank you." Christopher's here. Hey, Chris, how you doing, Mr. Wilkinson? He says, "Good evening, Bob." And he's here and says, "There were so many things out there better than the Smurfs is the other problem." Yeah, the Smurfs were really a one trick pony. They really, really were. But that being said, a lot of people did enjoy them, and there was a certain amount of humor there. But again, they had no depth. It was like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Only there was no Snow White and 50,000 dwarves. Justin says Thundar was great. She is correct. Well, you know my theory. You know my theory. Thundar got canceled because it was too intelligent for children. That's the short story. There's other facets, but it basically boils down to a post-apocalyptic high fantasy science fiction is a little too out there for kids, but it was reinvented as He-Man. You sounded down the plot. You added more heroes so that you could have a toy line, and Thundar becomes Masters of the Universe. Christopher says, good evening to Lance and Tug. Rachel says, I kept my love for childish things all my life, found no shame watching kid shows whenever I wanted, regardless of my age. LOL. I went back to that, but I went through a phase where I was above it all. I was like in the Frantics. My know-it-all nephew. I was the know-it-all nephew. Zublik says, good evening. And Tug says, my son liked most recent Wrinkle in Time when it came out, but I was squirming in my seat in annoyance the whole time. I imagine if you didn't read the book, you could like it. I remember watching the trailer and go, oh, they got that wrong. 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 And literally, when you have to sit through the trailer and you can make a drinking game out of what they got wrong. The Blue Falcon. Yes, yes, yes. And Justin says, points for a Frantics reference. I love the Frantics boot to the head. I absolutely love the. My granddaughter was really into boot to the head for a while, by the way. And to my cat mittens, I leave my huge, vast, entire boot to the head. And to my attorney, I leave not a boot to the head, but a live, rabid, wild Tasmanian devil to be put in his trousers. Where was I? Oh, Space Ghost goes out saying. And Indy goes on to say, I like Thundar a lot, but I was already a Herculoids guy, and nothing can replace your first love. Herculoids was great. I remember I had a collection of rubber dinosaur monster animal things, and I was able to recreate the Herculoids. I had a Triceratops that was uh the rhino that fired rockets from its trunk thing. I had a King Kong knockoff that was the rock ape. I had a pterodactyl that was the dragon thing. I loved the Herculoids, and apparently there's a lot of love for the Herculoids. Herculoids is great. And let's just see. I would take far less time to list the few things they didn't get wrong. I'm not sure there was anything they didn't get wrong. There's some things they changed that I wasn't as disturbed by. And from what I understand, the one that they made for Canadian television back in what 2003 was worse. I've never seen it. I've never seen it. But from what I heard, Tom Ross, he's supposed to be like one review I saw referred to him as young Sheldon. He's a little more approachable, but he's a sort of stoic, wise before his years kid, almost like an adult in a young person's body. And in the Canadian, he just spends the entire show going, "Wow, golly gee, Jiminy Jillikers." He's like this like wide-eyed scamp, and it's like, no, 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 nay, nay. But what do I know? No. And Rachel says, Mr. T cartoon. It's cool. Pity the fool. Pac-Man. Oh, I was just talking with somebody about the Pac-Man cartoon. Marty Ingalls did the voice, if I remember correctly. Marty Ingalls, of well, Google it. He did many, many, many things. Jabberjaw was good. Oh, Emily's here. So good to see you, young lady. She says, I'll be with y'all soon. Watching the last 2.45 of the Car Nevo game. Well, you enjoy the Car Nevo game, and we'll see when it is over. Hong Kong Fooey, of course, Lance. Just Gerwin says, I do. Kenneth, a lot of people saying hello to Emily. Indy says Tundra was the rhino, Zork was the dragon. Zoc was the dragon. I must confess, I don't recall all the names, but thank you very, very, very much. But it was the coolest cartoon ever. Ever. It really was. It really was. But you remember after Wizards, I was obsessed with anything post-apocalyptic. So if you could take high fantasy and post-apocalyptic and mash the two together, you got me there. Mr. Wilkinson says, "Did they make a Doctor Who cartoon, Bob?" They did not. They did not. They were talking about it. There was one of the works. In fact, I believe there was in one of the works for American television in the late 70s when they were trying to get the rights of the BBC series for America. PBS had it in a couple affiliate stations, but they thought because you could do more in a cartoon, you might hide the fact that it had bad special effects. But it never materialized. But it was considered. Graham J 4155. I got there in the end. Says, remember watching the Banana Splits, Three Musketeers, and Arabian Nights. I remember those vividly. My two friends and I were the Three Musketeers when we were kids. Rachel says that is correct. Marty was the voice of Pac-Man. Thank you. He was also the voice of Beagly Beagly and Grape Ape, if I remember correctly. Emily says score is tied at 17. Right. Now, oh, but while we're on the subject, it includes the Panthers. Did the Pats beat Buffalo today? By the way, they were playing earlier, and I forgot to check the score. I should at least pretend to care when I go to work tomorrow. Cindy says, hello, everyone. Merry Christmas. Just put up the Christmas tree. Merry Christmas, Miss Cindy. So good to see you, my lady. And he says, after extensive and formal polling, Gloop and Gleep seem to be the only ones anyone remembers. Well, yeah, because it was Gloop and Gleep. You know, it was like Tweeter and Woofer. It's like, yeah. Rocksteady and Bebop. When the two names serve as reminders for the other one's name, it's tough to not remember. A lot of people saying hello to Cindy, as do I. Final score, Buffaloes 35, New England 31. There'll be no joy in New England tomorrow. That was like the game is killing me. It's the killer game. It's the Hunger Games. You remind me of Katniss, by the way. And Lance and Cindy missed you. Had a baby last Wednesday. Who had a baby last Wednesday? Did Wednesday Adams have a baby last Wednesday? Rachel says, Happy Christmas, Ka. Toda. And Zerblick says, because those dumpster fans are notorious football fanatics. I'm not going to say anything bad about New England fans. I live here. But one thing I will grant you is when New England had a tough time winning, and they were just those diehard fans who stood by their team no matter how bad things looked, it was endearing. When the New England team started winning, they became intolerable. But that's just based on facts. Just says, Bugaloos, that's the blast from the past. The Bugaloos. Cindy says hello to Thrash and others. Cindy says, congratulations, Lynn. Lance, you had a kid last Wednesday. How could you have kept this a secret from me? First of all, I'm assuming you mean a lady to which you are, oh, how would we say in polite society? You sired a child. You fathered, did you? And you never told anyone until just now? Congratulations. So if we understand you correctly, uh, thank you. Congratulations. And if we don't, well, congratulations to whoever is in the same boat. Emily says, "Happy first day of Hanukkah to those who celebrate." I know Tracy does, but I also know she's going through some things right now. I know. I saw on Facebook. It's very, very sad. Everybody try to send, Tracy some positive vibes. Oh, baby birthday! I was gonna say, Lance. It seemed odd that you wouldn't mention that until today. Yes, birthday. Happy birthday. 58. Good to see you. Snark says this year says boopy y'all and boopy y'all to you too, SNS. And yeah, prayers for Tracy. Thank you, Tug. And yes, happy birthday to Lance. So that clears up that kettle of fishies. Snark says his class of 86. I was class of 86 as well. And Zublik says, talking about you, Tracy, and family. Thinking about you, Tracy, and family. A lot of people sending out positive vibes to Tracy. Hope things get better soon for Tracy. Oh, Indy was also class of 86. A lot of 86ers around. Rachel was class of 91. That's when I graduated college, actually. I squeezed 4 years of college into five. Cindy says, it's hard this time of year. I lost my twin around this time last year. Oh, again, Cindy, commiserations. And Cindy was class of 85. I think I knew that. And Emily says, Kerwin, she just lost her mother in law. Yeah. Yeah. And Just Kerwin is class of 81. And Snark says, this is our time, y'all. Yeah, sixes and sevens. Yeah, sixes and sevens. Man, that's fire. Man, that's fire. Pause. And Tug says, I missed it by 10 years. I always forget that I am substantially older than you, Tug. Not crazy, but substantially. Lan says, I had brisket and eggs for lunch today. Ooh, sounds delicious. Zublix wishes condolences to Cindy. And just says, thanks for the update, Emily. That's a terrible shame. Yeah, she lost her mother like last year, so it's weird. Like again, this time of year. Uh, Tug says, I'm being mega cringe. I know. I'm like sus. I'm like chopped. Yeah. No Diddy. And Chris is I am sorry for Sydney. Yes, as we all are. Yes, we all are. Forgive me, I'm parched. And Sydney's also condolences and blessings for Tracy. And Indy says, "What's the topic for tonight, Bob?" Pretty much Sunday morning cartoons. That's what we kind of settled on. That's what the trivia's on tonight. That's kind of where we kind of opened. But there were other topics. Actually, there's one thing I want to bounce off you guys. In fact, Tug, I was going to mention today in our earlier show, but it never really presented itself. Has anyone seen the new Hive Mind science fiction show, Pluribus? I believe it's by the same folks who did Breaking Bad. The main character was in Better Call Saul, and some of the superfluous characters have crossed over. It's a really neat premise. It's sort of like from an episode of Rick and Morty. This hive mind entity takes over Earth, but it's not like Invasion of the Body Snatchers or anything so parasitic. It's really nice and helpful and is just trying to make the world a better place. And there's this group of like 13 people who are somehow immune. I have a funny feeling there's probably more, but we know 13 people are immune. And the entity is trying to figure out what to do with these 13 people because it can't hurt life forms. That's its like number one thing. It can't hurt anything. In fact, it doesn't see it as hurting life forms. It sees it as um, keeping them from hurting themselves. It's kind of my. I don't know if you guys ever heard my premise to Montango, which scared the bejesus out of me as a kid, but where the people who are possessed by mushrooms force other humans to eat the mushrooms and then become mushroom people themselves. And years later, I came to the conclusion it's nothing so horrific. These people are castaways on a deserted island with no food. The only source of nourishment are these mushrooms. So you basically have two choices. You can either live ingesting the mushrooms and exist, or die. And we're not going to let you die. So they're basically keeping people from hurting themselves. It's almost, what's the word I'm looking for? Altruistic, if you can interpret it that way. But anyway, let me know in the comments up there because I've already let you guys ramble because I've been busy pontificating. But here I'm just going to try to catch up. Indy says, any great Lidsville questions? That would be telling. I wouldn't say there's any great Lidsville questions. I mean, other than before appearing in Lidsville, the main character appeared in what? Universal Monsters themed TV show, that type of thing. There are some good ones, but no, surprisingly, Lidsville didn't come up. Somebody says yesterday was Dick Van Dyke's 100th birthday. Happy birthday, Mr. Van Dyke. Most definitely, most definitely. And Tug says, I've heard nothing but good things. I saw a couple blurbs on YouTube, and I'm like, this show looks really interesting. And I avoid gimmick sci-fi at all costs because I've learned the hard way that once you get past the gimmick, you usually got nothing. But this one looks kind of interesting. And Tug says Pluribus is compelling but predictable in its flaws. It is entertaining, though. I really like its unbothered pacing. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. But yeah, you can kind of see where it's going at times. It's like Justin says, isn't that on Apple Plus? Yes, which is why I've only gotten to see the pilot. Well, parts of it. Tug says that's how mushroom eaters really are, though. That's another angle. I missed all that as a kid. You know, that's sort of that's not maniacal laughter. That's I am so wasted, bro. You know, because you know when you're a kid, you hear the brouhaha, brouhaha. It gives you nightmares. But no, it's not brouhaha. It's anyway. But here we go. Bigfoot and Wild Boy. Yes, that was a Saturday morning show as well. Graham says, looking at your T-shirt, I have the Flash Gordon animated show from '79 to 1980 on DVD. Loved the Flash Gordon show. It is, I think, one of the best examples of Saturday morning TV ever. Robert Ridgely was the voice of the '70s. He also did Thundar and, of course, Tarzan the Barbarian, among others. But I really felt they didn't just phone it in on the Flash Gordon cartoon show. They really the people who made it really loved the earlier installment of Flash Gordon, so they made a true quality product. The animation was good, by the way. And wasn't Mr. Oppenheimer the voice of Bing the Merciless, who was also the voice of Skeletor? Correct me if I'm wrong. Christopher says, I lost my mom 6 years ago. I know how you feel, Cindy, and commiserations to you too, Christopher. And Lynn says, Jay, that shirt was my idea. It was. It was. Anyone, huge props to Lance. It was. And I lost my mom 35 years ago. Commiserations, Lance. Very, very sorry. And just says, unfortunately, that's one of the few services I don't have. I hear good things, though. I don't have it either. And then he says, I like any well done show that instantly gets me to ask a dozen of questions about its premise. Sometimes they even answer them. Rarely, but sometimes. I know you feel. Foremost Contenders here says hi all. Tug says Apple is the best sci-fi shows being made today. Foundation, Severance, Silo, etc., etc., etc. Esmeralda's here. She's speaking in an emoji. Hello to you too, Esmeralda. Good to see you. Welcome back to Blix. Says message retracted. Message retracted to you as well. A lot of people saying hi to Miss M. And he says to Tug, I watched the first episode of Severance. I swore to myself that if his boss was his neighbor, I was done. And here we are. You really have to say spoiler alert. I'm guessing his boss was his neighbor. And Form says hi Thrash, hi Lance, hi Geek, hi Plex, hee. And everyone's saying hello to Esmeralda as well. And again, for those of you who just got here, Saturday mornings, classic 70 mornings, 70s preferred is the topic of the day. And we should probably I think we'll start around 7:30, okay, gang? As I'm more or less caught up at this point. And let's just see what else we got going on here. Let people saying hello to one another, having fellowship, as I always say. Let's see, we got 10. Oh, we got 10 in the chat and only 4 thumbs up. Come on, guys, we can do better than this. Give me a high. And no, Dan, I thought Danny said he was gonna come by tonight. Oh well, I'll forgive him this time. And anyone talk to Sister Sarah? I talked to her myself, but oh, and Lynn says, Thrash, your shirt was supposed to say Thrash Gordon. I think Dave and I were talking about it, and if I remember correctly, he was afraid if it said Thrash Gordon, that it would fall into copyright infringement. This doesn't, although it's actually dangerously close. But yes, a lot of people think that would have been a good idea. I agree. I agree. But oh, speaking of Dave, we're talking about doing a Retropalooza in January. No dates yet. There was a thread in my comments with the other Retropalooza gang, and we wanted to do something in December, but that's just getting away from us. So it'll be sometime in January. Rachel says I used to like Captain Cool and the gang, but that wasn't animated. Of course, I would actually consider non-animated anything good Saturday morning entertainment, and Captain Cool and the Kongs, I believe it was, with of course that was, if I remember correctly, Michael Lembeck, son of Harvey Lembeck, who was Eric Von Zip in all those old beach movies. He was a character actor. He did a lot of old war movies and stuff too. Stalag 17. Really, really, he played kind of a doofus, but he was a wicked tough guy. And Michael was his son, who was probably best known as being the son-in-law in One Day at a Time, Mackenzie Phillips' husband. And of course, his sister was on Welcome Back, Cotter. She was one of the cool, oh, no, not one of the cool, one of the smart kids that were rivals to the Sweat Hogs. Speaking of Saturday morning entertainment, she was in Magic Mongo. She was the one that didn't run around in the bikini. The one who ran around in the bikini is actually married to Brian Cranston now. But Michael Lembeck's sister, something Lembeck, I am so ashamed. I forgive me for not knowing her name, but she is Harvey Lembeck's daughter. Oh, Dave has a holiday stream tomorrow night. I will so do everything in my power to be there. And he says, "Would you like to argue about a boy and his dog for the next 6 minutes, Bob?" Um, well, I don't know what you could say that would take on the con. Um, I mean, I don't know what there is to argue about it. Um, Other than I don't think it would have made a particularly good Saturday morning kids show. If you think it did, I'd be happy to hear those arguments. I will tell you, Harlan Ellison did write a teleplay for the concept. Yes, I know. It was going to be similar to Planet of the Apes, where, well, they also did something really stupid. They added Spike. They added a girl character that Vic was going to constantly be butting heads with, and the three of them were going to have adventures and go from here to there. And Fellini was going to be like a recurring bad guy, like Lieutenant Javert. He and his henchmen were going to be following the gang wherever they went, and they removed the whole shenanigans, naughtiness, the fact that uh, Vic ravaged women was going to be removed from the storyline. But yeah. So if you want to say it would have been a good Saturday morning kid show, I'd love to hear the arguments for that. And Forum says, honestly, she jumped off the page. Hey, 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 lady! Honestly, I liked the live action stuff much more, or more than. Oh, abs! I'll come in again. As much, you keep jumping, so I keep having a tough time following the words. As much or more than the cartoons. Bugloos, Monster Squad, those are good. Kings, Kids from Caper, and whatnot. Justin says, that's correct, Bob. Thank you. And Rachel says, yes, that is what I meant, but I had a brain blip. LOL. I do what I can. Actually, the gang, the Kongs, we all knew what you meant. Oh, Helene? Oh, no wonder I didn't. I honestly, I don't know if I knew that. So, thank you. And Esmeralda says to Lance, okay. And Tug says, I would have watched it. I read the teleplay. It's not very good. Harlan Ellison didn't have a lot of high regard for people who watched television. So the teleplay is written for, how should I put this nicely? For people to go, oh, that guy got hit with a coconut in the head. It was written for people who, let's just say, were very easily entertained. It's sort of my same criticism to all this is Dracula Unbound. It's written for mainstream American movie viewing audiences. Middle of the deck at best. And I'm not trying to sound like a snob. I just, you can tell when a writer is writing below their mark. But again, why not? But then again, why? Classic Video Game 45. Hey, Classic Video Game 45 says their old video game called A Boy and His Blob. A boy? Why is a boy and his blob ringing a bell? Wasn't that in Heavy Metal or Famous Monsters? Or I could have sworn I heard of A Boy and His Blob. Uh-oh. I've already fallen behind. This is what I get for pontificate. Ah, boy, this blob. Okay, so I'm going to race through. It says, where is Sean, Lisa, Liz, and Dom at? Good question. Haven't seen them in a while. Zubik says, my favorite live action Saturday morning series was Kids from Caper. Where are the kids? Where are the kids? Where are the kids from Caper? Loved that one. Robert Ridgely did at least one appearance on that show, but the show had a very brief run, one season. It lasted one season. Well, again, a lot of people thought it was just trying to be the Monkeys. It was actually better than the Monkeys, but I don't know what it was. That whole season on NBC, none of the shows lasted. I think more than a season. City says I'm too old for you, Lance. I'm 58. LOL. Indy says I could see blood trying to catch that Purina wagon from the Saturday morning commercials. Well, okay. You want to laugh? You know what the dog that played Blood did before he He was in The Boy and His Dog. He was Tiger on the Brady Bunch. Just as Saturday morning cartoons from questionable sources could be its own thing. RoboCop, Rambo, Little Shop of Horrors. You know what? You're actually right. There were a lot of things you're like they made this into a Saturday morning cartoon. And Israel says to Linz, just had a B day myself. And Toad goes on to say the OG Fallout games are basically just a boy and his dog video games. But you know who else they borrowed from? Speaking of Brian Aldiss, yeah, Brian Aldiss. Some of the mutants, I guess. And Formus Content says, did anyone watch the Hudson Brothers for musicians? They had good comic timing. They were outstanding, and I love the was it the Popcorn Hour? But yeah, I do remember this the Hudson Brothers comedy show. Very very funny. And apparently, the way it goes is Fallout is actually based on a role playing game from the 70s. I can't think of what it is to save my life, but that was the original template for Fallout. The game that Fallout is based on, the role playing game, is actually taken from the works of Brian Aldiss. They admitted that. The guy admitted that. India says, Deform's content. The Hudson brothers used to crack me up. I can certainly see that. Classic video game says, love Fallout 3. That was found. Oh, we just jumped the shark again. Give me one more second. Fun. Yeah, I like that was found better. Sounds like a kid's term these days. Just says the glass teat Brooks were a lot. I have the glass teat, at least the first one. And yeah, where he talks about how TV is pablum and the American viewing on it just sucks it up because they're not very bright. Literally, that's I'm not making this up. That was his entire premise. Formus Content says, Indy, I bet they grew up on Marx Brothers skits together. Probably. I can definitely see that. And one of them was married to Kate Hudson, too. And Emily says, son of a, yes, we lost. I don't want you. I'm sorry. I apologize. And we won't talk about it. No, we won't. We won't. I apologize. And he says, Forms content. I know I did. And Lynn says, Emily, I want to not. Yes, no, she doesn't. And Tug says, you could have stopped at the Harlan Ellison didn't have high regards for people. Oh, I could have told you that. You know, somewhere in my letters, I have the letter he sent me where I asked him a question. It was about a boy and his dog, too. I asked him a question. Actually, you know what it was? It was, now that I think of it, this is years ago, when the interweb was just getting its feet going. And I had heard about a teleplay for Boy and His Dog, and I go, that can't be right. That's got to be an urban legend. And I sent him a letter, and he sent me a response where he basically told me I was a test study of the Dunning Kruger effect. Ouch. But enough about me. Uh, never meet your heroes. Justin says, I think that was a LucasArts game, but I could be wrong. You might be. I'd probably know it if I heard about it, but I'm not 100%. And Emily says, Lance, we have 2 seconds left with no ahead by 3. And Zipple says, yes, he did. It was entitled The Phantom of the Drive-In. Yes, that's right. And it's funny because he does different impressions because he doesn't want them to know who he is. So at one scene, he's talking like Boris Karloff, and then he'll talk like somebody else in another. And it's yeah, thank you. It was the Phantom of the Drive-In. I appreciate that. That episode actually speaking of the monkeys, 'cause I actually got a chance to catch that a couple years ago. I think it was on YouTube. And it really did play like an episode of the monkeys. But thank you, Zupalex, for pointing that out. And Danny's here. Greetings from South Carolina. Greetings to you too as well. And Video Game says movie in the 50s. They were great movies in the 50s. And Danny says, "Happy holidays to all." 29 degrees here, but it's still snowing on Cape Cod. Esmeralda says to Danny, "Hi," as in a high temperature, or just hello. How you doing? A lot of people saying hello to Danny. And Christopher says, "Didn't they make a Doctor Who movie with an American playing the Doctor, Bob?" Yes, they did. It came out, if I remember correctly, it came out right around the first Gulf War, and it was actually intended to be an American franchise, but no one got to see it because everyone was watching CNN. So it didn't test well, and rather than give it another chance, the American studios panicked and shelved the project. But yes, they did make an American Doctor Who. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's a more faithful adaptation than the Peter Cushing versions. But again, it was all for naught. And then he says, "Ah, the golden era back when Bob thought he could start trivia at 7:30. We were all hopefully dreamers back then." I'm sorry, some more people showed up. Here, Zubik says we can 86 the quiz. We will not 86 the quiz. It's right here. Let me just catch up and we'll go. I'm almost caught up. Justin Sherwin says, "You made it, Danny." And then says, "No, Kate Hudson was Mark's daughter with Goldie Hawn." I said Kate Hudson. I'm so embarrassed. Kate Hudson is the daughter. Goldie Hawn. He was married to Goldie Hawn, is what I meant to say. And Gambit is here. Gambit here says, "I always am amazed by cold air in December is headlines news these days." I know. We had such a hot summer, though. I thought it was going to be a mild winter, and it's not. But you are so true. Oh, you were on the show last week, but we were talking about Ian. Ian is in a relationship and seems to be doing very well. I talked to him on Facebook, so I just wanted to keep you abreast. Forbes Content is here and says, "Oh, to have been insulted by Harlan, a dream come true. It was easy, I assure you." And just says, "Yikes, that sounds like him." Yeah, doesn't it though? And Esmeralda says, "I loved Boy and His Dog. Funny movie." In a sick way, but yes, I love the movie myself, actually. Of my top 10 movies that just could not be made today. Emily says, "Denny, it's 24 here with a wind chill of 12." Rachel says, "Bob had a brain blip." And Justin says, "If you're talking about Eight's movie, Paul McGann isn't American." Uh oh, I'm not talking about one that was made for American television back in '91. I think I am. I could be mistaken. And 45 says, "Anybody watch the movie Santa Claus versus the Martians?" Bet, of course. Pia Zador's big breakthrough film. And Indy goes on to say, "Indy is at zero degrees, fat, drunk, and cold is no way to go through life, son." And a lot of people saying hi. Oh, and Emily saying hi to Cindy. And on that note, we're going to start the trivia because by golly, it's almost 20 minutes of 8. And the natives are getting restless. Boom, 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 boom. Anyway, again, the topic tonight is going to be Saturday morning TV shows. And as always, I shall give them in no particular order. Number 10. Which real life sports icon did not have cartoon show character added to their resume? Was it A, Muhammad Ali, B, the Harlem Globetrotters, C, O.J. Simpson, or D, Sergeant Slaughter? I shall repeat. Which real life sports icon did not add cartoon show character to their resume? Was it A, Muhammad Ali, B, the Harlem Globetrotters, C, O.J. Simpson, or D, Sergeant Slaughter? Oh, is Tug going to Din Din? Ah, yes, after Miss Trivia going to Din Din. Enjoy your Din, Din. And Gambit, be nice. Okay, he's not the biggest sports icon. He's the only real life person to have his own G.I. Joe doll. That is impressive. Historically speaking, Sergeant Slaughter is the only real live person to have his own G.I. Joe action figure. That's pretty iconic. But yeah, you guys got this one out of the gate. It was, of course, O.J. Simpson. Wouldn't that be awkward? Now, they could have a double feature with The Cosby Show. Oh, it's not my fault. Number 9. Bad acid trip of a Saturday morning AM TV show, Mission Magic, featured this pop icon. Was it A, Davy Jones, B, David Cassidy, C, Sean Cassidy, or D, Rick Springfield? I shall repeat. Bad acid trip of a Saturday morning TV show, Mission Magic, featured this teen pop icon. Was it A, Davy Jones, B, David Cassidy, C, Sean Cassidy, or D, Rick Springfield? Davy Jones' locker. Kerwin, good point, good point. Gambit says, I remember you had a discussion with ENC on whether Sandra was mentioned in season 1 of Cosby Show. You have a very good memory. I don't recall that. I don't recall talking about the Cosby Show. I'm sure we did, but I honestly don't recall that conversation. Which, again, doesn't mean it didn't happen. But I found that happens a lot. Actually, that's actually happened to me when I watch like other people's like shows or podcasts or whatever. They'll make a really good point, and like years later, I was like, "Oh yeah, I loved when you said blah," and they go, "I did." You don't always pay attention to what you're saying, but you'll pay attention to what somebody else says. And yes, the correct answer is D, Rick Springfield. And yes, before he was able to lose the accent. And yes, David Jones was a good guess. Moving on. This canine crime fighter joined the Tom and Jerry Grape Ape Show. Was it A, Hong Kong Phooey, B, Mumbly, C, Woofer, or D, Scooby Dum? I shall repeat. This canine crime fighter joined the Tom and Jerry Grape Ape Show. Initially, it was the Tom and Jerry Grape Ape Show, but then they in the second season added this character. And was it A, Hong Kong Phooey, B, Mumbly, C, Woofer, or D, Scooby Dum? Wow, I got a lot of you with this. Oh, Zen Dwayne! Oh my God! It has been forever! Oh my God! Stewie Griffin, welcome to the show. People are sneaking in left and right for my trivia. I am honored. Good to see both of you. And guess what, Zen Dwayne? You appear to be the only person who's got it right so far. Yeah, I really tripped you guys up. Hong Kong Phooey predated Grape Ape, by the way. I think Hong Kong Phooey was like 74, possibly even 73. Grape Ape was like 75, 76. And originally it was Tom and Jerry Grape Ape. They added Mumbly, which I'll go more into Mumbly later because it's a really interesting character. But he was sort of a schnauzer dog that was famous for going, and he was sort of like a Columbo character and solved crimes basically just by getting under people's skin. But very good, then Wayne. Thank you very much. You got a lot of people. Hong Kong Fooey was a good guess, but and he says I think Tat was Mumbly, but I only remember Beagly Beagly. Yeah, the shows were microcosmic. Like they never had crossover. There was the Tom and Jerry cartoons and the Grape Ape, Beagly Beagly cartoon, and then they added Mumbly with his own separate cartoon. I guess that they could be always done in different studios. But yeah, it was B for Mumbly. And I think he was only on the second season. But Anyway, was hey, hang on a second. Yeah, that was 8. Okay, so going on to 7. Which of these classic TV series did not, and now you guys hate these nots, did not have an animated adaptation? Was it A, The Addams Family, B, Gilligan's Island, C, My Favorite Martian, or D, Sergeant Bilko? I shall repeat. Which of these classic TV series did not have an animated adaptation? Was it A, The Addams Family, B, Gilligan's Island, C, My Favorite Martian, or D, Sergeant Bilko? I'm dry. How dry I am. How dry I am. Yes, entertainment while you contemplate. And it looks like pretty much everyone got this one. There were a couple of stragglers, but there's another minute. Da-da-da. I love to sing about the moon and the June. I guess no more answers. Yes, D. Sergeant Bilko. Top Cat was a carbon copy of Sergeant Bilko. But no, there was never a Sergeant Bilko cartoon apart from the animated intro at the beginning of the show. I think it could have made a great Saturday morning cartoon, but it didn't. Gilligan's Island even had one where, and there's like three of these, where it was set in outer space. Yeah, I was gonna, yeah. Gilligan actually did have two. The one on the island, and then one, Gilligan's Island out of space, which was just silly. And but of course, I always thought that they were trying to run on the coattails of Far Out Space Nuts. Like somehow they were reinventing Gilligan as a space opera character, but that's just me. Moving forward to number 6. This automotive hero lived in an all auto universe. Was it A, Speed Buggy, B, Wheelie, C, Wonder Bug, or D, Herbie? I shall repeat. This automotive hero lived in an all auto universe. Was it A, Speed Buggy, B, Wheelie, C, Wonderbug, or D, Herbie? Performance consensus. My favorite Martian was actually on my watch list then. LOL. Yeah, but they couldn't get Mr. Hand, that guy. He wouldn't come back for it, so they got Jonathan Harris, didn't they? Um, you know the guy who played Mr. Hand. I can't think of his name to save my life, but I'm sure Indy will correct me. Um, no, it wasn't Speed Buggy. Speed Buggy lived in a regular world. He had human drivers and they had adventures, and he was just their sort of pet car. Wheel and the Chopper Bunch is it's a weird show. It's set in a perfectly normal Earth, but there were no people, just intelligent cars having their own little adventures. And Wheelie is rivals with this motorcycle gang. And the weird thing is, all the other cars and motorcycles talk except for Wheelie. Wheelie just kind of goes beep, 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 beep. Occasionally he beeps and you got to make words out of it. But it's weird because there's no humans, there's no mention of humans. People go rogue with this one. Some people say it was the sort of primal days of the Transformers universe. And these cars grew into the Transformers. Other people say it's where Stephen King got his idea for trucks. He saw this cartoon and said, "What happened to all the people? Maybe the cars became sentient and killed them all." And the only people left are the slaves in the factories that make the baby cars, the offspring cars, if you will. But yeah, it's weird. It's a weird cartoon. Herbie, of course, is the possessed Volkswagen, and Wonderbug again is sort of like Speed Buggy, but it was a live action setting morning show about a Schlepp car which develops magical powers. But Speed Buggy and the I'm sorry, Wheelie and the Chopper Bunch are the correct answer. One more. I haven't. Wait, was that it? Oh my god, yeah, that was six. Okay, so look at scores. Emily is 3 of 5. Ray Walston, thank you. It was killing me, Ray Walston. Buddy of mine met him once on a show he was working on. Sounds like Pixar. Yes, it does. Now that you mention it, and for everyone who said Ray Walston, thank you so much. And he says, "What was the reason for not continuing? No, for not counting Top Cat as Sergeant Bilko, as an name Sergeant Bilko? Oh, because he wasn't Sergeant Bilko; he was Top Cat. The Adams family were the Adamses. Gilligan was Gilligan. Top Cat is a made in the spirit of. So I can't quite count it. So that is why that one is a no. Zublix is 2 out of 5. Stewie is 2 out of 5. Danny is thank God. Cindy is message attracted. Rachel is 4 of 5. Video games is 2 of 5. Emily says hi to Esmeralda. Just is like 4 of 5. Chris is 1 out of 5. Indy is fair enough. Cindy is 4 of 5. Gambit is 1 of 5. Zedwayne is 5 of 5. And Esmeralda is high. So I'll give that another second in case there is any other scores. But Saturday mornings were tougher than I thought, apparently. But you guys are all hanging in there, and I'm all very, very, very proud of you. I must confess, one or two of these I didn't know either, but they were so good I had to use them. And Stewie says, "Hello, Thrash. Happy Sunday fun day." Yes, Stewie, hello to you as well, by the way, and so glad you could make it. Number 5. Okay. This anachronistic Saurian themed Saturday series is essentially an animated companion piece to Land of the Lost. Was it A, The Flintstones, B, The Last Dinosaur, C, Valley of the Dinosaurs, or D, Donatopia? I shall repeat. Wish me luck. This anachronistic Saurian themed Saturday series is essentially an animated companion piece to The Land of the Lost. Was it A, The Flintstones, B, The Last Dinosaur, C, The Valley of the Dinosaurs, or D, Donatopia? And Danny says, "Watch the email Thrash. I'll send you tracking number later." Oh, Danny, you're sending me a present. Thank you. Merry Christmas to you, my brother. Thank you very, very much. Stewie says, "By the way, I'm Terrell, not Stewie." It's funny. Teb, when I saw the icon, when I saw the big T, I go, "It's Teb," and then I saw Stewie Griffin, and I go, and I couldn't for the life of me remember if like, did we have a Stewie? Because every now and then people come back, and that happened with a Braidwood Inn. Braidwood Inn had a different handle for a while. So, Teb, thank you very much for clearing that up. By the way, I again haven't seen you in a while. So glad you could make it. Cool new handle, by the way, but very glad you could make it. And it's nice having you with us yet again. And he says, "I assume you were talking about yes, Valley of the Dinosaurs. Yes, Valley of the Dinosaurs." Which I absolutely loved as a kid. Not as much as Land of the Lost, but I thoroughly, thoroughly loved Valley of the Dinosaurs. Ugh. Moving on to number 4. If you remember this one, the Funky Phantom was a casualty of what American war? A, the Revolution, B, the Civil War, C, World War One, D, World War Two. Yes, Saturday morning cartoons could get dark, but I shall repeat. The Funky Phantom was a casualty of what American war? A, the Revolutionary War, B, the Civil War, C, World War One, or D, World War Two. Emma's like, B, no clue. What was the answer to the last question? Oh, I'm sorry. C. C. Valley of the Dinosaurs. Valley of the Dinosaurs. And the answer to this one, I won't keep you in suspenders. The Revolutionary War. He was a cowardly soldier from the Revolutionary War who comes back 200 years later and has adventures. Number three, this vintage Saturday morning series made the bizarre choice of taking place after World War III. Was it A, Thundar the Barbarian? Wait for it. B, Scooby Doo? C, Planet of the Apes? Or D, Jabberjaw? I shall repeat. This vintage Saturday morning series made the bizarre choice of taking place after World War III. Was it A, Thunder the Barbarian, B, Scooby Doo, C, Planet of the Apes, or D, Jabberjaw? Heavens to Betsy Ross. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. He was kind of a Ben Franklin esque. He had similar clothes. Wasn't quite as paunchy. I'm going to give you guys one more minute. No, it looks like you guys have all checked in. The correct answer is C, Planet of the Apes. Now, here's where the fun on this question comes from. Yes, Thundar was post apocalyptic, but you remember at the opening credits, we see that it was a comet. A comet disrupted Earth and triggered the apocalypse. Now, here's a couple of fun facts. Some fans of Scooby Doo claim it takes place in a post apocalyptic world. That's why teenagers go around in a van. There's like no infrastructure. They don't have to go to school or anything. They found a van, acquired a van, somebody got hold of a van, and they go around from one. And it's sort of like the Planet of the Apes TV series. They go from one remnant of society to another, where these like weird despots have kind of taken over. But yeah, there's on YouTube you can actually see little posts where people speculate Scooby Doo is actually post apocalyptic. And like a boy and his dog, that's how they can communicate with Scooby. He's telepathic like in a boy and his dog. Jabberjaw is environmentalist. We've destroyed the surface of the earth. They actually do science fiction stories about this. But with the ozone layer gone, the surface has become uninhabitable. So we've all moved to undersea cities to avoid getting burned by the lack of ozone. But the correct answer is, in fact, C, Planet of the Apes, which in the actual story of the show, they make reference to World War III. In fact, if you look close enough, it's basically said that the Americans started it, but details. Like they said the day after, doesn't really matter who started it. Number two, this canine was Dastardly Dan's right hand dog. Was it A, Astro, B, Muttley, C, Snuffles, or D, Goliath? I shall repeat. This canine was Dastardly Dan's right hand dog. Was it A, Astro, B, Muttley, C, Snuffles, or D, Goliath? Battle Cat. Hellcat video. There'll be plenty of time to live in a van by the river when you're living in a. Oh, oh, Dick Dastardly. What did I say? Dastardly Dan, right? I'm sorry, Dick Dastardly. I said Dastardly Dan. I'm very sorry, Dick Dastardly. I think he's Dastardly Dan in the wacky Laugh Olympics. But all right, thank you, Dick Dastardly. You are correct. Give yourself a bonus point to Dwayne. Anyone who says Dick Dastardly, give yourself an extra point because that's what I meant. I meant Dick Dastardly. But the correct answer is B. Muttley. Now, here's what the story I was talking about before. Muttley was in, Stop the Pigeon, Stop the Pigeon. He was the carbon template for Mumbly, that crime fighting dog later. They're two different dogs. One's good, one's evil, but they're effectively the same dog. The style is everything. But then they repurposed him again as a bad dog in Scooby's Laugh Olympics. And speaking of stop the penguin, stop the pigeon, stop the pigeon, stop the penguin, whack whack Batman, whack, whack. Anyway, speaking of Laugh Olympics, which of these teams were not represented in Scooby's Laugh Olympics? Was it A. Magilla's Gorillas, B. Yogi Yahooies, C. Scooby Doobies, or D. The Really Rottens? I shall repeat. Which of these teams were not represented in Scooby's Laugh Olympics? Was it A. Magilla's Gorillas, B. Yogi's Yahooies, C. The Scooby Doobies, or D. The Really Rottens? I think some of you haven't seen the show. Give you guys another minuet. Da, 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 da. No, the Submarines were not represented as well. So give yourself a point. The Really Rottens were actually the best team on the show. There was no Magilla Gorillas, although I got to admit that is a really cool sounding name. So, everybody, what are the scores? I haven't seen this in the 80s. Give me a break. I know, but the Really Rottens were the best team. I believe they even won one once. Won one once. Ezra Blix got 6 out of 10. I know we have more than one score, people. I got it right, but still. Then what are you complaining about if you got it right? I'm just teasing. I'm a teaser. I tease. Christopher got 3 out of 10. Jess Kerwin got 11 out of 10 with the bonus point. Rachel got 8 out of 10. Cindy got 6 for 10. Emily got 6 out of 10. Sounds good to me. Teb got 6 out of 10. Then Dwayne got 9 out of 10. I thought you got the bonus point too, but okay, we'll call it 9 out of 10. 45's got 3 out of 10. Oh, yeah, she's still mad over the Panthers game. Yes, everybody, Emily's in a very bad mood. Don't tease her. Actually, don't tease her when she's in a good mood, but particularly when she's in a bad mood. And he says Colossus is still tabulating to see if I got the answers correct. I'm sure we'll all know that he'll find that you did. And Emily says, "Love this. Thank you, Thresh." Esmeralda, you're so welcome. Thank you, E. I love the positive vibes. Then Dwayne says, "Oh yeah, I did get the bonus point. Yeah, so call it 10. Call it 10 out of 10." Chris says you should do Buffy the Vampire Slayer trivia, bub. I didn't watch the show faithfully enough. I did watch it, but I didn't watch it faithfully. I don't really know enough about it. The only way I can do trivia is if I actually just read up on it. And I have this thing where, I mean, sometimes if I find a real fun fact, I'll throw it into the trivia. But generally speaking, if I don't know the answer, I don't ask it. I feel that's unfair. Like I said, I do make some exceptions. Like when I stumble upon this fun fact or that fun fact, I'm like, okay, this is too fun not to use. But I don't. I think it's unfair for me to ask questions that I didn't know. Um, actually, I had years ago when I had to do trivia questions for the company I worked for. They go, make sure it's stuff that people can actually get. Not like who was the second prop director on the third Harryhausen movie that was filmed in Expandivision. Uh, and Cindy says, I would love that one, uh, Christopher. And Emily says, should have done Dick Van Dyke movie trivia tonight. Oh, yeah, I really should have. I really should have. While we're on the subject, guess what I lost? You remember that list of all the really great trivia topics you guys keep giving me? I lost it again, which means it's not lost altogether. But I mean, I can't find it. So if you guys have some great trivia suggestions, like that would have been great for tonight, feel free to throw them out at me. Although I got to tell you, I haven't seen a lot of Dick Van Dyke movies. I saw the one Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, the one where he grows a beard and becomes a radical. I saw the one where he plays an alcoholic. Uh, that was a little close to home. And he says, whenever you bump your back a bookcase, it looks like a David Lynch movie. I know it's like in heaven, everything is fine. In heaven, everything. Wasn't she called the girl in the radiator? It's funny too because when you look up the cast of David Lynch movies, because oftentimes they don't have names. When you look up the names, it's usually like Girl in the Radiator, Girl on the Moon, uh, Guy who controls all things. Oh, and by the way, did I tell you I finally got through Lost Highway? Fell asleep during that movie twice. Twice. I finally got through it, and I still had to read up to find out what it meant. I love David Lynch, but that one was real. And how I fell asleep during it with Patricia Arquette, still beyond me. It is a good movie. It's a slow burn. It's a very slow burn. Except for Robert Loggia's scene where he gives the guy a speech on safety of the road. Oh, I did see. You're right. Cold Turkey. Yes. Okay. I did see Cold Turkey. Thank you. Baseball. No, I will not do sports. I'm sorry, Zublix. Don't take it personal, but I don't know enough about sports. Zublix says, I think he did Divorce American Style. I don't know if I saw that one. Teb says, please do trivia on 60s, 70s, 80s anthology series. Not named The Twilight Zone. Done. Oh, Chris, if you're bailing, I more than understand. Have a great night. Thank you for joining us as always. Indy says, thank you for the trivia, Bob. Indy, you are so welcome. So glad to be of entertainment to you people. Watching Pluto TV. 257. Oh my God, where did you get it? 257. So good to see you. Welcome. Dublik says, best scene with a pancake makeup, Robert Blake. Cindy says, Christmas trivia. Okay, all right. All right. Christmas trivia. If I've had some good stuff, I will. Outer Limits. I'm writing a little slower too, so I can read my handwriting later. About Xmas movies and TV show quiz. 257 says Super Die Hard movies from the 80s is the best. Night Thresh. Tab, have a great night. Take care, my brother. So good to see you. Don't be such a stranger. Do a cult Christmas movie quiz. Let people sing goodnight to one another. Esmeralda says, great show. Ez, so glad to be of service. I'm so glad you had fun. And as more and more people are bailing, we should think about starting to wrap things up. So any last minute topics, I usually try to like pull the plug around the 8:30 mark. So Emily says, how about Happy Days and all the spin-offs quiz? Didn't I do that? I'll put it down, but I thought I did that once. And I can't say because didn't I talk about this, that, and this? Because that would ruin the show. But I'll put Happy Days spinoffs. I recently did one of movie soundtrack, but that's always good. Black Christmas, 1974. That's more of a horror movie than a cult movie. A cult's Christmas movie would still be a Christmas movie, but just with like a weird following. Not a horror movie set at Christmas, but you know what? I tell you what, I will consider that for some of the questions as well. Hey, no worries. Don't worry about being late 257. You can always watch and rewatch. Uh, I believe you're right. I believe All in the Family technically had the most spin-offs for American television. And Dwayne says, "Gotta get ready for work. Had a lot of fun, Thrash. Everyone have a good night. Bye." Dwayne, thank you so much for joining us. Take care. Come back and see us real soon. Peace. Uh, Favorite Jan Michael Vincent films? The world needs more Jan Michael Vincents. Wasn't he in Danger Island with Ronnie Troop, who was such a sexy older woman? Hey, I was like 7. I'm sorry. That's the great unfairness of life, really. You know, all these when I was a kid, all these women who were sexy older women are now, well, they've stayed the same age, so now I'm a dirty old man. You know, oh yeah, life is fair. Teen idols of the 70s and 80s, that could be good too. Cindy says Ted McGinney ruining TV show quiz. You know what? I always thought he was in the last season of Welcome Back, Cotter. Because remember, they got that kid who was supposed to be from the South? And that actually wasn't Ted McGinney. But the funny thing is, he's done interviews and people remember him as being Ted McGinney. He that wasn't Ted McGinney. I forget what his name is, but Indy, you'll know who it is and you'll be able to correct me. Graham J says, "Did you ever watch BBC's Ghost Stories for Christmas from the 1970s?" No, but I'm gonna write that down. BBC's always had the best scary stuff. Let's just see what's going on here. Stephen Shortridge. Cindy, I'm not familiar with that, but sounds good. 257 says Tales from the Crypt. 1970s great movie, Zuper. That with oh, what was her name? Don't tell me, don't tell me, don't tell me from Dynasty. All right, go ahead and tell me. But but that story, my cousin told me that story is like a campfire story when I was a little kid about the Psycho Santa. Great story, great story. Um so it says gotta watch Tales from the Crypt. I love Tales from the Crypt. I love Tales from the Crypt. My Joan Collins, thank you. I knew one of you would get it. No problem. Sydney says he was the one in Carter Country. No shit. I used to love Carter Country. One of the funny, you guys remember the Crazy Ex Army Colonel that my mom was engaged to that I was talking about? Well, he did have a sense of humor, and he was also a huge sports fan. And there's an episode of Carter Country where two local rivals are playing a big game, but it takes place during the funeral of a fallen officer. The problem is the main was it Victor French? The main character. Well, not the black dude, the sheriff in Carter Country. He has a transistor radio and he's got a little earpiece in so he can hear it, but he promises Carter that he'll keep him posted. And so he's giving a eulogy, but he's interspersing. He's he's sticking in little points about the game, So the like all men, he fumbled, and this time he did not recover. And I remember watching it with the Colonel, and we were like in tears. It was like the funniest thing ever. It was very, very funny. So if any of you remember that episode, you'll probably remember how funny it was. And if you don't, then you won't. That covered all the bases, huh? But yeah, Carter Country was great. And yes, Joan Collins, thanks again. And oh, that's right. Yeah, Revenge of the Nerds. Yes, Ted McGinney was in Revenge of the Nerds. And Cindy said, "Oh, Emily says Cindy, I actually liked him in everything, but I guess he was just never a fan favorite. I don't get it." Huh. Well, of course, you remember. Usually, he would sign on to shows that were spiraling the drain anyway. Not quite as bad as Cousins and Oliver Syndrome, but what was happening was the shows were just they were wrapping up, and the cast had jumped ship, so they just needed somebody as filler material. With one exception, Married with Children. He was actually in more seasons of Married with Children than Garrison, Steve Garrison, the original Marcy husband. He played Steve Rhodes on the show. But he was only there for the first 3 seasons, I think it was, and then it was Ted for like 12. So again, that's probably his most long running work. And 257 says best movie for Christmas is Miracle on 34th Street, 1947. It's a Wonderful Life. Ernest Saves Christmas. Well, 2 out of 3 of those I'll give you. I remember once I got in trouble, not from my boss, but from my wife because I told her the story. Stupid me. So I was working at the video store, and someone came in and said, "Can you still get Ernest Saves Christmas on DVD?" And I said, "Oh God, I hope not." Well, Mrs. Thrash like, you're a snob. You're a snob, right? You're a snob. I'm sorry. I thought it was funny. God, I hope not. Emily says, Cindy, have you seen recent pics of Stephen Shortridge? He's still a looker. Oh, all right, all right. I think I get it. Stephen Shortridge was the guy from Welcome Back, Cotter, whom I thought was Ted McGinney. All right, do I have that correct? Please feel free to correct me in the comments below. It's funny when I have a couple of different threads going on. Sometimes I think somebody's answering one question, but it's another. Remember last week when how many takes did it get me to realize that it was Kirstie Alley? I think Emily spelled it out K. Cindy says he was great in Love Boat too. Emily, he's so cute. Didn't he correct me and get it if I'm wrong? Didn't he also do the Love Boat spinoff? I think it was called Paradise Island or something. It's about the resort town, and it's literally the same thing as the Love Boat. Only instead of a boat, people come to this resort and fall in love. And Emily says, "Yes, Bob." I'm assuming to the Shortridge. I'll probably be right about this one too. And Cindy says, "Yes, Thrash." He went on to do Carter Country, and we get with the loop is full circle. Only 257 says, I saw The Gift of Winter from the 70s on Tubi. Good cartoon. The Gift of Winter. Never saw that one. There was a local puppet Saturday Christmas special called The Gift for Grandma, which no one has ever heard of. For a while, I thought I dreamt it, but apparently it was made by a local TV station up here in the Northeast. So if anyone's seen Gift for Grandma, let me know. Emily says, Cindy, look at him. Oh, Cindy, look him up. He don't look bad for 74. And Cindy says, I will definitely Emily. And thus, but yeah, I remember. But like I say, I thought he was, and it fit the profile because again, last season of something. But there's at least a couple times where Ted McGinley actually made reference to that. Like this one where they go to the TV Hall of Fame. It's like a theme park for old TV shows, and all the kids like wolf pack him because they say, "Oh, you," and Ted McGee is like, "Okay, Captain. I mean Fonzie." You know, uh, his hair is solid white. I would kill for that hair. And Graham says, "Lost BBC ghost story from 1978, A Child's Voice on YouTube." Also, ITV, The Woman in Black from 1989. Genuinely scary. Those both sound excellent. I'm going to write those down. Woman in Black and Child's Voice. There was some great anthology stuff that came out of Britain in the 70s. What was it? Was it Tales from the Dark Side? That was a really good one. A lot of them were just adaptations of old short stories, but they were good. They were good. Did it come out in the 1960s, Pawns? I'm sorry, I'm not sure which one we're speaking of, but 60s or 70s. Failed Robert Urch TV shows. That's mean. One of them only failed because he had cancer. You guys know that story, right? It was I want to say Spencer for Hire. It was doing fine. Set in Boston, represent. But it came out that he had cancer, and the studio didn't want to keep bankrolling a show that was not going to be lasting much longer, so they scrapped it. And then he recovered, and then he got a new show, and he passed on. It's a really, 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 really sad story. Uh, oh, 257, great show. Thank you, thank you. Oh, Tales of the Unexpected. Thank you. You're right. I think Tales of the Dark Side was an American show from the 80s. Tales of the Unexpected. I think that was the one. Oh my god, that was the one. I just saw it recently on YouTube. It's a really, really creepy one. This teenage girl um gets off at the wrong stop, so she has to walk home, and this really creepy old man hits on her, and this sweet, sweet old lady thwarts this creepy dude and runs him off with her like Ruth Buzzy, just makes him go away. She says, "No, come home with me, love. We'll call your mother. She'll come pick you up, but I'll make sure he stays away from you." And when they get to her home, you find out that this old woman and creepy dude were working as a team, and it's just like, oh dear. And it's one of those things where I don't think it went a little off the rails. I think it doesn't constitute as a horror short. I think it constitutes more of a cautionary tale. Like, remember some of the Hitchcock shows where he would come out at the end and says, "Okay, normally I go for entertainment, but this one I'm trying to land a message here." I think that one was trying to land a message. But thank you. Ozablik says yes, it was a western. And yes, yeah, oh, yes, it was. Yes, thank you. Now that you mention it. And Cindy says now Yurik, he was cute. Yeah. Yes, he did, didn't he? 257 says the Jim Backus show. I don't recall the Jim Backus show. My favorite Jim Backus story is he was vacationing in Italy and he was being approached by a lady of the evening, and he's trying to say like not interested, not interested, and she takes his "I'm all set" as a negotiating tactic. So she's like, "Oh, how about if I said for this amount of money or that amount of money?" And finally, Jim Backus says, "Well, I'm sorry, dear, I only have $5." And the harlot was like, "Ugh, $5. Oh, what do you think I am?" And goes off in a huff. And he's like, because that was kind of I went one time in Rome. I not with a lady of the evening with a street vendor wouldn't leave me alone. I lowballed him so low that he left me alone because he thought I was a cheapo. Anyway, long story short, he's out having dinner later on that night with his wife, and who happens to walk in but this lady of the evening? Sees him with his wife, looks at the wife and says, "Huh, see what you get for $5?" I thought it was funny. But no, I don't recall the Jim Backus show. Just says Road Doll's non-juvenile work isn't for the weak-hearted. I have heard that. He was a very dark person. I don't know if it's because of experiences in the war or he had a lot of personal problems. But yeah, his stuff can be kind of off the rails as well. Oh my god, I think he wrote that. There's a bell ringing in my head. It's probably the tinnitus, but I think Road Dahl wrote that. I'm gonna have to look it up again. Wow, thank you. But I think you're right. Um, and Cindy says, "Yep." To Emily, can't date a mom and the daughter at the same time, unless you're Keith Richards. And Graham says, "Whistle and I'll come to you." Is that the name of the episode I'm talking about, or is that something else? It sounds vaguely reminiscent. Ziplik says nobody would be able to answer trivia questions about the Jim Backus show. Well, except Jim Backus, and he's no longer with us. And Emily goes, "Ouch!" And Justin says, "Yeah, Tales from the Unexpected was a dull project." Oh yeah, but did he write them all? I don't think he wrote them all. I think I'm sure he wrote. I think it's like the Twilight Zone where he wrote some and not all, but I think he did write that one. I think he did write that one. I believe, if I remember correctly, they did a Rod Taylor adaptation of oh, what was it called? Well, it's the guy picks up a hitchhiker. The hitchhiker turns out to be a con man and steals his car, and they do an adaptation of A Man from the South, which is outstanding. I think my favorite is El Madrid. I loved El Madrid when I was a kid. I loved like irony. I can't tell you anything about El Madrid. I can't tell you anything about it. So if you have an interest, it's probably on YouTube or Pluto or but look up Tales of the Unexpected El Madrid and you will be very entertained. The book says Road Doll hosted a show entitled Way Out. Yeah, Way Out, man. And Cindy says Steve J. Kennel TV show trivia. Know nothing about the man. I'm sorry. Talking about the man. 257 says a day of disaster. A space probe being transported to its launch site sinks to the bottom of the river following a bridge collapse, trapping two engineers underwater. Crazy. Way out good for TV show. Anyway, on that event, oh, and Zerbook says it's on YouTube, only 257. Oh, splendid. Anyway, on that note, I think we should wrap up, gang. We've hit the 8:30 mark. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me. I look forward to these things all week. And I think if I didn't do one Sunday, I think I'd be off my game for the rest of the week. If Linz is correct, and I'm sure he is, if Linz is correct, Dave will have a show tomorrow. If not, I apologize for deceiving you. But I will try to put out new content this week. I don't know if I'm going to be able to. It's the week before Christmas and things is cray cray. I will definitely still have a show next week. It's gonna be solo. Dan and Sister Sarah are very busy for the rest of the year. So it'll pretty much just be me until New Year's, after New Year's. See you next year. But anyway, guys, I want to thank you so much. Um, just just for being you. I had a lot of fun tonight. Seems like most of you did too, and I can't tell you how pleased I am at that. But anyway, until next week, you know the drill. Be good, be safe, be careful. I'm looking forward to seeing you all again very, 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 very soon. Peace.